What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Yes, we made it through another week. Not a fun day yesterday for basketball. Wasn't really anything exciting going on. Literally played like one lineup. Didn't win. Uh, it's a much more interesting slate tonight. And we have all this golf that just who knows what's happening. But all of my guys are, other than Adam Scott, who's just, was Adam Scott in that I got a Hideki'd after lock. Other than that, I'm just absolutely on fire. I mean, Kazire was a priority for me. He's 4 under. Obviously, my favorite play was Fleetwood. He's my highest owned player. He's obviously leading. Neiman, 40%, 35-ish percent, I think I have of Neiman. It's been great. Hopefully it continue. It's going to be really weird to watch these guys play in the conditions that are about to come hit them because it looks like the weather's going to be really bad. So that's my golf stuff. I'm going to start off before I look at anything in chat. I'm going to go through guys who I consider priorities tonight. So priorities on DraftKings, Martin Sengun. You don't have to play Martin, but I'm probably going to. And I'm going to play Sengun. That's just not happening. I understand if it busts, I'll just lose. But there might be a lineup you find without a Sengun in for me, but it's going to be hard. Graham or Alvarado, who's ever starting, I still think the line on that game looks really fishy. I don't really understand why they're not more of an underdog in this spot. But Graham or Alvarado, Joval, Herb Jones. If you're not going to play Jones, you can include Murphy or Hayes in case of foul trouble. Luka or LeBron as spend-ups. Booker is my favorite non-spend all the way up, but spend up. And then one of LaMelo, Bridges, and Rozier, I think are really solid plays. And I love KCP and or Kuzma going back to LA. Like all those spots. So that's what I'm sort of deciding between tonight in terms of my priorities on DK. Other guys I will be filtering in. Trey, John Collins, Nick Batum, Kevin Porter Jr., Marvin Bagley, Kelly Olynyk. It's a weird one. Boston Revenge. Sorry, guys. I got a little bit of sniffle still. I can't shake this thing. I had it forever, and I still can't shake it. All of the other Houston guys, I said KPJ, but Eric Gordon, Jalen Green. Somebody's going to have games, even in a bad matchup. Like, it's just not possible for it to all evenly distribute and it only be Sengun. Like, I just don't think so. So I like the idea of taking shots on those guys. Love Mitch Robb. Can't seem to quite fit him in every build I make, but I really like him. I'm going to try to force it a little stronger. Desmond Bane as a long shot play and Ja Morant. Those are my long shotty guys. On FanDuel, the priorities are Herb Jones, Sengun, Devontae Graham, Kleber or Powell, Joval, Bridges, Rozier or Ball. Ball probably being the best one on FanDuel, but I do like Bridges too. LeBron, Luka, Porzingis. Those are all separate guys I like. Dinwiddie, Bullock, Barnes, Fred VanVleet, or Siakam. I wouldn't play all three of those guys, but I do like playing at least one of them. And then Reggie Bullock is just like if you need that 3,800. I need to blow my nose. So sorry about this, guys. Give me 1 second. No, it's not the best thing to do, most professional, but it's driving me nuts. Sorry about that. Anyway, so let's get into the other stuff in the slate and the way the builds go. I think the first thing you're doing is, look, we still have questionables that we probably don't even know about, right? So I don't think you need to delay because you need to avoid these early games, you need to wait. But really, these early games aren't all that interesting unless we get a bunch of guys out for Minnesota, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I'm going to skip by the Minnesota-Orlando game for the most part. I understand anybody who wants to take a shot on, especially Edwards on FanDuel. I guess I should include him as one of the plays. I don't care. You could show me a bunch of 20s from him. It means nothing. The upside is 60 plus, and to play him on owned is always really, really cool. So I just am always going to take shots like that. So he's a guy I'll filter in, I guess, on FanDuel. But nobody else really stands out to me. And on Orlando, everybody, I could make an argument for Carter, Wagner, Suggs. I just am not going to do it. You know what I mean? There's just too many other things that are happening. And you have the blowout game with Boston and Detroit, likely a blowout, not necessarily guaranteed, but I think after Detroit beat them, that Boston will find their better game here tonight. If you wanted to include, Cade Cunningham or Sadiq Bey, I have no problem with that. I'm just not doing that myself. No problem with any Celtic. Not going to do it myself again. Robert Williams, kind of oddly like my favorite get weird play of the Celtics. I don't mind Horford either. Grant Williams, maybe being questionable, and if he's out, I don't know, that could open up some more run even for the two main bigs. So I'm open to it. Everybody, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum's expensive, but he's really coming into his own, and I don't think this is anything fluky. I think you're going to see a lot of 60s out of him going forward. He's put up 60. He's put up 50 in a more 3 and 4 straight. He put up 60 plus in the last 2. Again, you kind of want this game to stay a little bit close, though, if you're playing. The Clippers are the Clippers. I love playing them and speculating on the value in their late games, especially because they always sort of seem to have somebody who sits. But I just can't quite get there tonight. The only one play I do like is Marcus Morris on Fanduel, especially. He kind of just fits into some of my builds. And he has a ceiling, as he just showed in the last game. You're going to get a lot of bad results out of him, but it's a great matchup. And Morris is, talented enough to where if he gets a little bit hot early on, he's going to keep shooting. 40 fantasy points definitely feels like a possibility for him. So I guess you can include him. Trae Young and John Collins, my only level of interest from Atlanta. That's pretty much it. And then everything else is going to be the later game. So most of my lineups are going to be built with a core of games starting at 8 Eastern. So that's my sort of quick rundown. Let's talk about some specifics. Let's say what's up to everybody. We got Rody in chat. Major thing, even if we don't win tonight, we want Rody to take down the big one. Take down the championship this week. So he's at the live final. We got to support our guy. So we hope Rody wins. Whether any of us win, that's all a great bonus. And we can win ours and he can win his. But hopefully Rody does take that one down. Mark says, good luck to everyone. Mark, appreciate all the great work. Mark's been amazing helping develop the site. We're getting so many things done. I'm actually comfortable to say it now on air. I didn't want to say it. So we're partnering we have an agreement in place with SaberSim, and we are going to be offering SaberSim's product in a very near future. So that's literally going to happen next week. So we're really excited about that. A big shout out to Mark for that one and all the other team here at TrueDFS. We're really starting to grow, and it's exciting. All right. Let's see what else we got. Who's going to win Rody $1 million tonight? So I gave my favorite plays over there. Fanduel Priority is the same. I went through my Fanduel Priorities. I'm happy to do it again. There's a lot of them. It's a good multi-entry slate and a terrible multi-entry offering from Fanduel as tournaments go. They did not give us good options for the things. Herb Jones, Şengün, Devontae Graham, one of Kleber or Powell, Jonas Valanciunas, one of Bridges, Rozier, or Ball. Ball will be the highest owned, but is a great play. But I like all of those guys. One of them is what I would do. LeBron and Luka, both awesome plays. Anthony Edwards, as I mentioned. Kristaps Porzingis in a similar vein. Dinwiddie, maybe Bullock. And then you get the Toronto guys, Barnes, Fred VanVleet, or Siakam. So that's my priorities for FanDuel. What's up to my man Rashad? Yeah, we're still here. We're still rocking it. And I didn't get my hair cut and my beard trimmed and everything like that, so I don't quite look the same way I did back when I was in the old RG days. But yeah, still here. Anyway, let's see. We like Ja and Randall. Like if you play Ja and Randall tonight, Rody, you don't have to worry about how chalky the rest of your lineup is. I'll tell you that right now. If you're playing Ja and Randall in that size of a tournament, you're gonna give yourself a chance if they get there. I don't think you have to worry about ownership even the slightest bit if you're going to play those two guys. Let's see. Kobe, who's awesome, says, I know the center position is stacked today, but as a fellow conflicted Lakers fan, Dwight could be the wild card tonight. So I absolutely agree with that. I don't know. I don't think they start him is my guess. I don't know. It's an interesting. I'm trying to think of a pivot you have late. You don't really have like a direct pivot from Dwight, who may play 0 minutes. It's an awesome, like if you're playing 150, you can throw him into 1 or 2 maybe, but I don't know. That's a tough call. Like, and hopefully that for you, the Lakers release their lineup early tonight. Probably not going to happen, but you can hope for that. Other guys who I didn't mention, who I'm throwing a little bit of on FanDuel, especially, is Mike Conley, like Donovan Mitchell on both sides. But I would rather this ownership has got to be wrong, right? Something has got to be broken when Donovan Mitchell is cheaper and projected to be 3 times as high owned as Devin Booker. I love Devin Booker tonight on DraftKings. I don't even understand what people are looking at. I don't understand his median projection throughout the industry. I think his median projection should be closer to 50 than to 40 by a lot. I think it should be like 48 or something like that. It's a median projection. This guy can go out there against the worst possible matchup. He just put up 55. What do you want from him? This is not a great matchup either necessarily for him, but who's going to have the ball in his hands? Who's going to do everything? What was weird about last game was that they did let Cam Payne run a lot of the one, and Devin Booker only had a 23% usage rate, which is a little bit alarming considering he was over 30 in the other games without Paul. But I'm going to take that shot at the ownership without a doubt. It is interesting that Cameron Payne had higher usage than Devin Booker. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case tonight. So that's my thoughts. Again, I love you can play Kuz at low ownership, not crazy low, but low. And you can play KCP and you can run it back with LeBron. Boom. I like that little as a little mini stack, and also gives you opportunity to make some adjustments. All of that stuff. Like there's a lot in by playing the later games that you can get an advantage from. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so let's keep looking and see what else we got. Pop in some questions, pop in your thoughts. We don't have sheets today because it's a Friday. We know we lose that guy on Fridays, but let's get into it. All right, let's see the next. I'm looking, just making sure I'm not missing any updates. All right, looks like we're all good. And what do we got in here? Do I like any wizard? Sensei Jay and I are like in lockstep. I always answer Sensei Jay's question right before he asks it. So, hey man, we're on the same page. I do like KCP. I do like Kuzma. I don't think I'm getting to anyone else. I certainly could understand an argument being made for other guys like Porzingis on Fanduel. Sure, 6K. That's fine. Actually, I think the clever thing would probably be to play him on DraftKings. But, I think. I don't know. I think it's just KCP or Kuzma. And if you did want to make the Dwight play, I guess if he doesn't start, maybe you could take a shot on Corey Kispert. I don't love this, though. This is just trying to think of that very creative idea by Kobe Farrell. Is it Kobe for life? I guess we're just going to call it Kobe for life. Look, nobody loves Kobe more than I do. And I'm getting the impression that our boy Kobe in the chat is always feels the same way. Luca is so you're talking about, so I don't know if the ruler's talking to Rhodey or me. Austin Reeves or Najee Marshall, neither one is my answer. Certainly can make a case for both. You got to see if Najee Marshall starts. Yeah, you could play Najee Marshall if he starts. I don't think he'll start. You could do it. And then I don't even know where that question. I'm just trying to figure out I don't know why you would need to build a lineup and try to include either of those guys. Like, you definitely can always make a case for Reeves. He's gonna get more and more minutes. He can hit shots. He's been over 23 games in a row. So I guess Reeves would be the answer, but I don't really like it. I guess that's who you switched from Dwight to either Kispert or Reeves if you leave 300 or subtract 200. That's what I would do, I guess. I don't love the Reeves play, but it's one of those plays but it's going to work sometimes just because he's on the court. And if he makes, 3 or 4 threes, boom, you're getting your 20 plus fantasy points. Maybe that's good enough if you're pairing it with other value, but neither of those are priorities for me at all. Porzingis on DK is that's a good question, Rashad. See, that's what I'm saying. That's the clever way you play this. You have a Porzingis who right now I'm looking at projections on FanDuel of what KP is going to be owned. And I'm just going to take a quick look and make sure I'm right on this. So you have him 25% on one side and less than 0.5% on the other side. Now there is a price gap, obviously, but 6K versus 7,300. I'm kind of interested in taking that shot a little bit. I don't think I'm going to do it on DraftKings, but that is the kind of play that you can win a tournament with because you're going to make that stand and think that, hey, you know what? He's going to play 30 minutes tonight. One of these nights when he does, he's going to put up 50 fantasy points. Obviously at 7,300, that's a really good number, but there's just a lot of good plays in the slate. So I'm not playing him on DK at the moment, but I certainly understand. I'm not going to hold it against anybody who does. I think it's absolutely viable. Kleber or Powell? That's a really good question. So I'm actually ending up And by the way, take this with a grain of salt because I never ever play Dwight Powell. I actually like Dwight Powell tonight. I don't usually go that route. I think Kleber is the end. The way I'm playing on DraftKings and Fanduel. I guess I'm playing Kleber on DraftKings and Powell on Fanduel. It's that's the way I have it ranked. I have Powell ahead of Kleber, which doesn't feel good. I like Kleber better as a player, as a producer, all the things. But assuming that everything goes the way it goes, and both have significant, like very easy bust paths. But I'm giving a little bit of the nod to Powell myself with the price difference. Now I wouldn't leave 600 on the table and play Powell, but if I was going to leave 600 on the table and I was deciding between Powell and Kleber, I would just play Kleber then. But if I'm just factoring in all the price and everything, that's what I would do. All right, let's see what else we got. Projections hate Towns. It's a good reason they hate Towns. Don't look at his recent numbers as any sort of indicator of anything. They're completely like on FanDuel. Absolutely, you can play Karl Anthony Towns. That's way too cheap. But there's just everybody's too cheap on FanDuel, so you got to take it again, grain of salt. But why do we need to play Karl Anthony Towns at 10-7 as at a pretty good center position on DK? So this better be an only FanDuel play for me because honestly, if you're going to, we run into that same territory, right? Where if you're going to play Towns, now it's a fine matchup. It's fine. These are not guys who are going to lock him down or anything like that. But it's not like some crazy thing. I mean, even as great as Towns been, to pay off this price, he's hit that number twice in the last 25 games. Like, I don't know, 22 games. I don't know if we should really be doing that. Like, it just feels like it feels like reckless, especially being an early game. So I think Towns is a very reckless play on DraftKings, in my opinion. It would take like a ceiling game with everybody healthy, more guys that have been healthy in forever for this team. And now is when we want to play him. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Of course, you could just always make the argument, yeah, he could go off. Of course, he could always go off. That's never going to change. Just never. But there's no logical basis for playing Towns tonight, in my opinion. You do have the early lock with Rhodey, so being an earlier game doesn't really affect that. Gobert or Valanciunas, now we're getting into it. That's my talk. I love both. So when I'm playing them on DraftKings, I'm playing them together. I prefer Joe Val, but I really like this matchup for Gobert. I think Joe Val is the answer, but if you have like a chalky build, actually they're going to be similarly owned. I prefer Joe Val, but I really like Gobert, so that's a tough one. Really like both of them. On FanDuel, I have more Joe Val. On DraftKings, I have like the same, and they're literally in the same lineups together because I think they're both tremendous plays. So that's where I'm at. All right, Sheets is going to be posting a Sheets soon. Yeah, Sheets is Rhodey's slate is smaller. Rhodey, ask some slate specifics. Let's get into it. Let's talk about some plays that you can use to get a little creative. It's a weird slate up from what I hear for you guys. So playing Towns actually makes a lot more sense on that kind of a slate, obviously, than it does on a full slate. But is your last start time? Let me get this right. I'm going to guess that your last start time is 8 Eastern, and tell me if that's correct. Because if so, we can sort of shift things a little bit and talk to you about maybe some ideas that we could run through for trying to win this $1 million. 7 games, so 8 p.m. Okay, so then I think it actually does bring Towns more into play because you're skipping LeBron, and you still have the Luka play in a great matchup, but that could be a blowout. So I'm more okay with it by far on this earlier slate thing, especially with it locking right away. I hate that they do that, DraftKings and FanDuel. Like when they do that at live finals and you get a guy who's not starting or ends up out or something, such nonsense. Like really such nonsense. I want Rhodey to win this and prove me wrong, I actually have had some really good live finals before. But I think live finals, especially getting multiple tickets, are probably the worst EV bet in the industry. Trying to get tickets for them are literally like you're making more money doing everything else. It's sort of like parlaying in other things. Also, they're spending money on the accommodation, the things like your entry is only worth probably 1/3 of what your value should be. So it's just something to keep in mind if you guys are into playing live finals. Now, if you want to go to one, absolutely play up, jam them in, go for it. I have no care about that kind of thing anymore, so I'll throw a lineup in every now and then, but it's just not the way I've played too long and too much DFS to where it's a positive EV. I mean, literally, you could win one, and in the next 10 years, if you're still playing DFS, it still may not even cover the entries you for trying to win satellites. So I really don't advise spending big money on trying to get to finals. But having said that, with Rhodey at the live one for $1 million, let's go. Let's get it. Let's get our guy to take it home. Okay, so do you think Dinwiddie goes off even if Luka does too? Yeah, I think that they both could. It's a great matchup, so I think you could play them together. It's a good question. But yeah, you could definitely play them together on FanDuel. I will be doing some of that, so I have no problem with it. Pivots, you can play Mike Conley at 600 less than Dinwiddie, maybe upgrade somewhere else. Maybe you have like a Conley, I don't know, Conley and Powell versus Kleber and Conley and Kleber versus Powell and Dinwiddie. I think you could make that as a really good 50-50 who's going to outscore who. I think it's a really, really close call. Keep popping questions in, guys. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here whenever. I actually do have time because I'm not playing anybody in the first game. But maybe we can help Rhodey a little bit more to take this thing down. Maybe there's some clever plays I'm not thinking about here. So, some other guys from the earlier games that I wouldn't be looking at for the main slate myself. I like Trae Young. I would prefer Trae Young versus Towns. But I think that again, it's a little bit of a price thing. On FanDuel, for example, I prefer Towns versus Trae Young. But still, pretty close, actually. Both are good plays, though, on FanDuel. Let's see, what else have we got in the earlier ones? I guess you could say Reggie Jackson on FanDuel makes some sense at 7,500. On DraftKings, I don't think I'm going to get to him at 84. You've got... Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff I don't like. I like the Celtics guys that are in the earlier games. And then obviously the New Orleans-Charlotte game. But one thing that people aren't going to do is play Terry Rozier. And it's very interesting to me that it took all of one bad game from Terry Rozier for everyone just to forget he existed. He put up 50 in a row, three consecutive times before that. Another really good matchup here tonight. Don't forget about Scary Terry. He's not going to go 5 for 17 from the floor every night. Turn that 5 into a 9 and you already have a decent game. And if you turn it into what he's been doing in general, you have a monster game out of Rozier. So I do think you can incorporate a run back if you're going to play. Let's say you want to play Herb Jones, Devontae Graham, and Jovel. I think it's very viable, by the way. I think you could run it back with LaMelo, Rozier, or Bridges very comfortably. I don't even mind the weird Mason Plumlee play who was in my initial build. They, against teams that play sort of the double big things like Boston, he just played 30 minutes in the same matchup against Boston, the same type of a matchup. Now, when there's not really a big or sort of not, whatever, you don't see him play as much. But against Cleveland, 28 minutes. Meanwhile, you got him projected for 24 minutes. But against these types of teams, we've seen the writing on the wall that he tends to play more minutes in these situations. So there's a clever play that can maybe get somebody home, including the early slate. The Knicks, Mitchell Robinson is a phenomenal tournament play. Like, I can't emphasize this enough. It might be nothing tonight, but Mitchell Robinson could absolutely go nuts in this type of pace against a team that turns the ball over, against a team that get their shot blocked. And by the way, they're a really good team, but they do all these things. RJ Barrett's fine. There's a lot of fine plays. I'm just not using. I'm focused more on Houston with a Luka or a Dinwiddie run back. I'm focused more on the Pelicans with any of the three Bridges, Rozier, Melo run back. But I don't mind if you want to go a different direction and play some of the other guys. I'm not having to because I can include the later games like the Lakers and Devin Booker, which Rhodey doesn't have the luxury of doing tonight. So it's probably interesting to think about this stuff. The worst play on paper is another phenomenal tournament play, and that's Darius Garland. This is a terrible matchup. No two ways about it. But Darius Garland plays good in terrible matchups. And I'm just going to read you his actual numbers, his last games. His usage rate with the current situation they have is at 36%. It's third in the NBA. His production, 13 assists, 10 assists, 19 assists, had the 1-4 assist game in the bad game against Charlotte, where he actually almost brought him back and he missed his fourth quarter run because they got blown out. Darius Garland's going to play like 38 minutes. It's not a good matchup. I keep saying this, but Darius Garland can put up 60 or 70. We've seen it. We just saw it twice. And nobody in the planet is going to play Darius Garland. It's an awesome play. That's an awesome GPP play. Again, I'm saving it more for my larger field stuff because you can't play everybody. So I want to stick to my core and mix some of these guys in. Do Van Vliet better than Ball on FanDuel? That's a really good question. I actually think it's really close because if I'm using 3 players from New Orleans, I'll play Ball instead of Van Vliet. If I'm not, I would play Van Vliet, but I would gulp because it's very, very, very close between those two for me. Hayes or Powell on FanDuel. I don't think that's a real conversation. I don't know how you get to Hayes or Powell. So explain that one to me because they're completely different prices. Powell's 3,800. Hayes is what now on FanDuel? I know he's not that cheap. So I would never be leaving $1,000 on the table to start off with. Oh my God, Hayes is 4K on FanDuel. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I think you could make a good argument that for tournaments, Jackson Hayes is a better play. Both massive downside risk. The one thing I'd say is that it's a good kind of a matchup for him. That's a really good question. I think I'm playing more Powell, but I'm not going to say that's even right. In general, that's mostly wrong. It's the bodies missing and the Powell, like if they play the same minutes, we should expect a pretty similar result. That's a really good question. I did not realize that they made Hayes 4K on FanDuel. I literally I went through all my plays, all my everythings, and somehow Hayes snuck by me. I think the answer, I still like Powell, but that's really close. The fact that I'm saying it's this close probably means maybe go with whatever your instinct is because I didn't consider because I didn't see the upgrade in situation for Hayes specifically, even with all these guys out. With Powell, I can actually see more potential run for him alongside Kleber because Kleber's the other best defender, so they'll play him at the court. And on the court, he can guard the 3, 4, 5. He can even guard some ones. Wow, that's a really tough question. I think the right answer in the long run is going to be going to be Hayes. But I kind of am a little bit more intrigued by Powell. That's really close. It's as close as they come for me. It's a really good question. I did not realize that Hayes was 4K on FanDuel. Herbert, Jones, absolutely. Herbert Jones, not Hubert, but Herbert. I love Herbert Jones. For what it's worth, you're on Hayes big time today. Every line with no Val, I have Hayes. I love that, Kobe. That's a great piece of advice. So there's another way you could look at it too. I mentioned, the other side of if I'm stacking the game, but what about if you're not playing in that line? Let's say you're playing Gobert. So that's probably what I'm going to do. You just gave me a good idea. I've got some Powell lineups that I can go to Gobert and Hayes and have some with Powell and Joval. But I probably don't. I mean, Joval and Hayes can both get there, but it's probably better to separate them. So I really like that advice from Kobe Farrell. Kobe for life. We'll call him that for right now. All week about Randall and that Barrett play is not bad. Yeah, dude, you know what, Rhodey? I love it. I support it. I think it's a really, really bold stance to take. I do like the idea of Julius Randle here, and on FanDuel, he's much more enticing at 8,600. On DraftKings, it's harder for me to get to that 9,800 price tag, but I kind of like that idea. I'm a little worried because I like Memphis minus 9.5 in this game. That's the part that would worry me a little bit. And the fact that Julius Randle just cost me somewhere between, 30 and 140K by getting ejected in the game that he was going nuts. Yeah. Okay. I no one's going to play Ja on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they will play some of him. So you're not going to get no ownership on them on FanDuel, but you are going to get still a pretty good spot. Do I think Payne is good on FanDuel? I think Payne is absolutely fine in anything. I'll just be completely blunt about it. I'm not using him, but I support anyone who does. I think that there is some realness to this. He looks really good. Like that's just the eye test, and the numbers have mostly been good, but it does feel kind of a little fishy at double-digit ownership to play him at 6,700 and 6,900 respectively. There's ways that it doesn't have to be him tonight. And by the way, the other guy in that game who you can play if you want to pivot off of these other centers that other people are going to play, you can play DeAndre Ayton here. No natural big matchup that he has to worry about. I think he's actually an interesting off the board play, but I'm mostly playing Devin Booker everywhere. So probably not going to get so much of Ayton. But if you did have a really chalky build with Gobert or Joval, I think you can just switch over to Ayton and feel pretty good about it. All right. Cat Alvarado. Okay, so I think Alvarado is like, dude. There's some guys you just like guilty pleasure, like you like watching them play basketball. I kind of like selfishly hope he starts for that reason. I am going to play some Alvarado. I think he's talented. Pretty good fantasy point per minute guy. Is aggressive. He creates for others. Decent usage rate in his time, and now hasn't seen a situation quite this good in a while. I think we can go ahead and take shots with Alvarado for sure, whether he starts or not. So I do like Alvarado, but I don't think it's a priority. It's just a guy I'm going to be mixing in. If I'm not going to play Devontae Graham in the lineup, Jose Alvarado will most likely be in that lineup. All right. Basically, that's basically it. Thanks a lot, Jazzy J. Guys, really appreciate everything. Please hit the like button. We really appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here in probably 3 minutes. So let's answer anything else. Is Alvarado, Graham, and J-Val too much? So if I was doing that, I think I might want to consider a run back at least. Like if you have guys who are ranked similarly, like I mentioned earlier, I like Booker. But if you want to take a shot with LaMelo or you want to go down for Rozier, maybe you do that as a run back. But I don't think it's too much, to be honest. I would like to see a starting lineup, though, before committing to that. So that's tough. All right, let's see. Yeah, Alvarado and Graham, absolutely, they're okay. I would rather not ideally have them in the same lineup, but it's totally fine. They can both get there, especially we don't know the starting lineup yet, so it's hard to know, man. I like Tatum. He's more than I'm going to pay for him in a game that I'm worried about staying close, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if I look down later and he's got 60 fantasy points in the game at the end of the game. Is Bane okay? Thanks for calling me Babe, Dunbar. No, I'm just kidding. Bane is okay all the time, and this is no different. It's not a particularly standout situation, but when he's below 7K, I think you can just always comfortably take shots. Like that game against New Orleans the other night, he could have put up like 50 or 60. Like he really could have. He just didn't get the minutes because it was over. I like Bane. I'm not playing a bunch of him in total honesty, but I think he's an interesting pivot off of some of these other names, like Bane versus Payne. It's not to rhyme. I think Payne probably has the higher median score. I think Bane has probably a little more upside given this. Oh, it's close. That's a close one. That's one you'd have to decide. But when you're getting, Bane at 150 ownership, I kind of like that. All right, let's see. I do like LaMelo for what it's worth, but I'm more treating LaMelo as I'm playing 3 Pelicans. I'd like to run back either LaMelo, Bridges, or Rozier if I'm going to run 3 of them out there. Appreciate the kind words. Let's see what else we got. I think we're going. Yeah, hey, you know what? If you want to hedge, I'm all for it. Other people who gamble is hedging for losers. Hedging is this. Hedging is smart. It's just smart betting. If you're going to win a parlay for $500,000 and you don't want to like hedge by putting or cash out, don't need to cash out, but like you don't want to hedge by putting 50,000 or 100,000 on the other team, at least to get something back for your 16 to 1 or what people do. Always get a little hedge in. I'm on that page. So LaMelo is your bring back. That's awesome. So but again, I like a little Rozier. I think Rozier you're going to get really low ownership. And I think that Miles Bridges is about to do something big. I just don't know what night it's going to be. It's always like that with him. It's like every 5-6 games you get like a 55 out of him. I feel like this is the kind of environment that could be. Hey, man, I really appreciate the kind words, Jazzy. I really appreciate all you guys being around here. And obviously, if you're not in Discord, get in Discord. Please like and subscribe and all that nonsense. And I'm going to say good luck to everybody. I will be in Discord till the end, so I can answer questions up till whenever. I don't have anybody who starts until 7:30 Eastern, so I got a little bit of time. Let's make some money tonight, guys. Good luck, everybody.